Good evening. It's 9 o'clock here on Thursday night, August the 21st. I'm Jeff Lyons, and this is the 14First Alert Weather Show at 9 o'clock. I'm watching your comments on our 14 News Facebook page, so if you have questions, weather observations, whimsical thoughts, whatever you want to put in there, you can do that on the 14 News Facebook page, and we'll check those as we get through the weather show tonight. Well, those clouds really screwed up the forecast today, didn't they? We were thinking the sun would break through and we would get into the middle 80s, and of course that didn't quite happen. We stayed cloudy, so we're going to try it again here with a slow clearing trend overnight. And eventually here, especially by Saturday, Sunday, it'll be sunny, warmer then, and then we get another shot of cooler air on the other side there on Sunday, Monday. Our fog forecast, which might be a proxy for overhead clouds too, is showing a little bit of fog again tomorrow morning, primarily over the southern area of the tri-state south of I-64. And if that moisture hangs tough, we could be in the clouds again at least through midday. I think by tomorrow night, however, we should be starting to clear things out in earnest. Our dew points continue to come down, and that's one key ingredient. We got to get the drier air working for us. We're at 66 now, and I think our dew points by tomorrow night, maybe in the lower 60s, will help get the clouds out of here too. Over the next 7 days, as we've been talking about pretty much all week, we have two basic chapters in the temperature. 87 will be the high point on Saturday. Then we drop down here and we have several fall-like days there, finishing the weekend and into the middle of next week, where temps will be about 10 degrees cooler than the normal, or much cooler than average. Normal would be 88, so 78 or so. And not a lick of rain either. It's going to be very dry. I am a little concerned that we could slip into drought pretty quickly here now that we haven't had significant rainfall in about a week, and it was so hot last week, and now we're looking at potentially another week to week and a half without widespread significant rain. The cooler air, at least, is pretty well entrenched here in the eastern half of the country, and actually the west, not too bad right now. The usual hot spots are there, like Vegas and Phoenix, with 107 and 108, but generally a pretty decent regime there, weather regime across the country. That sounds so militaristic, but that's a phrase that we often will use in a such and such regime. Anyway, the current temps now across the Great Lakes and down into the Ohio Valley, all very comfortable there, mid-70s, 68 in Lexington right now, and 69 up in Columbus, Ohio. And you can pick your favorite town here. I'll pick a couple. How about Lewisport this evening? They're in Hancock County at 72. We have Mount Carmel, Wabash County at 74, and Fairfield and Wayne County at 73, and Newburgh, 75 right there on the river in Warwick County. Today we only got up to 79, so this is how it's going to feel next week, but on the low end, we will be getting down into the 50s. I mean, that's good sleeping weather when it gets down like that. For August now, we did break the 14-day hot streak there of 90s, and now we have dropped back into the 70s. That probably signals what's on the way for next week. No rain, as I mentioned. We had 400s, but that's really not significant widespread rainfall in any book. And if you look at the month, we only had one other day with rain. We had a half an inch there on the 12th. And again, it wasn't exactly evenly doled out. And so many of you might be going now on about 3 weeks without a decent rainfall. If you're wondering about 90-degree temps, whether we're done with those or not, the answer is probably not. Typically, we will get those last 90s there in the middle of September. I mean, that's the mean date. If you go back 125 years there to 1900, and kind of average it out, the mean date would be September 16th. Now last year we hit our last 95 on the 21st of September, so right around the first day of fall. Welcome fall, right? 95 degrees. And the year prior to that at 91 on the 5th of September, so much earlier. And then we had another appearance there on September the 21st. In 2022, we were up to 96. It's odd, isn't it? Weather often rhymes like that, where you'll get, kind of years that are very similar, but maybe separated by one, kind of a one-off, because that's actually quite an early last 90-degree temp. Latest ever was in 1963, and that was 90 degrees way back on the 22nd of the month. That'd make for some sweaty trick-or-treaters there if it held out to the 31st. All right, for August, of course, we are waiting for rain. We are ahead for the year, and we're much warmer than normal. And tomorrow, basically, it's Thursday version 2, hopefully with sunshine out there and temps in the lower 80s. There really isn't a whole lot happening on the big map tonight. We have high pressure essentially blocking out any real active weather here in the nation's midsection. It is kind of trapping the cloud cover over us. Aaron continues to weaken and move away from the U.S. coast, so that's all good. And we are watching a couple of other areas here for tropical development. Wouldn't surprise me to see Ferdinand, or the next named storm, appear somewhere here between Bermuda and the Caribbean over the next few days, but that's about the only thing we're watching. And no storm chance here in the tri-state, quite quiet for everybody involved. So with that said, let's go through the hour by hours, and essentially same old thing day after day. We call that a persistence forecast, where it is basically the same conditions will yield the same weather day in, day out. And that pertains all the way to Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. Beyond that, of course, as we know, the longer the range of the model, it gets a little flakier, but we're really not seeing any signal for a change over to rain anytime soon. 65 tonight, partly cloudy. Up to 86 tomorrow, and partly sunny. And then, we got the football forecast. A lot of first games tomorrow night. It should be the ideal night for it, too. Temps right around 75 to 80 at kickoff, and then halftime, assuming about 7:30, 8 o'clock, 73, and then into the low 70s, upper 60s for the back half of the game there. So good weather for football. And the 7-day forecast, we've kind of set all that up. It's going to be much cooler next week, significantly cooler than normal for much of the eastern half of the country, and somewhat drier than normal, too. Our pet pick tonight, that's a good one there. It almost looks like a sunset up close, because I can't quite see the map like you can. But anyway, that is Tabitha from Carroll Mills. So we appreciate you sharing your Tabitha, your pet pick, with us. And I will go over here and check out your questions and comments. I discovered we have kittens that are hanging around the outside of our house. I'm not sure where they are based, but I'm not feeding them or watering them or anything, and my cats don't go in or out. They don't go out, they stay in. Man, 3 kittens, a mom, and then several tomcats lurking about. I don't know if it's just we have some sort of cat vibe at our house, and you hate to see them out there. They're virtually impossible to catch without a trap, and I'm not quite that sophisticated yet. So hopefully, they will move along, but if anybody wants a free kitten and you're quick, come on over. All right, let's see your questions here this evening. Dan Lees says, loving the cool temps. Well, sure, who wouldn't? Cheyenne Hammonds says, good evening. Jeff Miller is commenting a nice cloudy day. Yeah, it sure was. Joan Clay likes that fall feeling in the air. And William Raleigh wants to know, is there a chance of rain at the end of the month? Right now, William, it's not showing up, nothing glaring on the models, but, anything out beyond 4 or 5 days on a long-range model, we just kind of have to wait and see. But to answer your question, I'm not seeing anything that would signal rain. All right. Usually this time of year, about the only mechanism that will bring us a good soaker typically is some kind of tropical system that comes up through the Gulf and stalls out somewhere in the Ohio Valley. And of course we can get flooding that way too, but oftentimes we will get kind of that $1 million rain, that comes at the very last minute. Speaking of rain, let's talk a little bit about drought conditions, or the drought situation. The U.S. Drought Monitor takes into account how much rain we've had, growing conditions, where we are in the growing season, soil, moisture, a lot of factors to determine a drought classification. So if you don't see any coloration, it's a normal. Abnormally dry is kind of the first step. That'd be like the marginal risk, and then you would have moderate drought, which would be like the slight risk, on the Storm Prediction Center thing. But moderate drought, it doesn't take much to go from abnormally dry to that, and it wouldn't surprise me, especially if we don't get rain in the next week, to see most of the tri-state then shaded in with that abnormally dry and maybe some areas of moderate drought. Now the farmers are, let's see, we're almost to the end of August, so we got another month. Not sure, if they're wanting any more rain at this juncture, or if it's best just to kind of let it play out. We'll find out. I'll have to talk to some farmers and actually ask that question. Maybe we got a farmer on here who could answer it right now. I know, hay cutting and hay baling, I think most of that activity is wrapping up or getting to that point. This will be the perfect week for cutting hay if you have to do that. Flash drought is a term that I used on the news earlier this evening, and it's kind of a newer one from the Weather Service. At least it describes a situation that's happened, of course, as long as weather's been around. But basically what happens is in the central U.S., what we have is a situation where you have a wet year, as we have had. We're 10 inches ahead of normal. Of course, we had catastrophic flooding back in March and April. And then all of a sudden you get a drought, like a 1 month where it doesn't rain drought. And, that is kind of what we're looking at right now. But in this situation, what can make it worse, especially if we have the higher temperatures, is that evapotranspiration, or in other words, the release of moisture from growing things, trees and row crops and stuff like that, increases. And so it's typically not prolonged, but it can become exceptional and create a rapid onset drought. And once that happens, then you've got all the normal baggage you would get with a regular old drought. It just so happened to come on very quickly, and oftentimes they are ended very quickly by some kind of bigger event, like I said, a tropical system bringing rain in or something like that. So anyway, that's a little bit about flash drought. Hopefully we won't have to talk any more about that this season. And let's see here. Angie Wampler, we had a lot of lightning in Vincennes Wednesday. A bolt of lightning hit your house. I'm sorry to hear that. That is not what anybody wants. So hopefully everybody's okay and you didn't have a fire. Let's see. All right, I think we got everybody answered there, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. I appreciate you watching the First Alert Weather Show at 9 o'clock. I'll be back here tomorrow night at 9, and of course I'll see you on 14 News and 10. In the meantime, please stay safe. Thanks for watching, and have a good night.